Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the last Wednesday working lunch of this series. It's great to see you all. Just as you can see on the screen there, I'm Dave Crew, Head of Business Growth and Employer Partnership at Western College. And it's really good to see you all. If you could just mute your microphone, say hi in the chat box, use the chat box throughout the session to ask questions, make comments, and get involved in the conversation. But if you could mute your microphones, that'd be great. And we are now recording this session. So for those of you who are new to Wednesday Working Lunch, this is the series that we've created during lockdown to bring people together. This is a bit about Western College on the screen there, a further and higher education college in North Somerset with over 30,000 annual course enrolments. And with a simple mission of creating brighter futures. And I'll talk a little bit about that later on. But as you can see from some of the work that we're involved in on your screen around the SEND agenda, delivering apprenticeships, working with leadership and mental health across the education and business sector. There's lots going on at Western College. So it's good to be able to connect with you all at this time. We decided to create this series back in May, working quite closely with the North Somerset Enterprise Agency and our local Chamber of Commerce, Western Chamber, to create this series. We've had 10 sessions. This is the last one. We've had internal speakers from the college, interviewing students, interviewing employers. And for us, we had a very simple mission, which was to bring people together to educate and collaborate. And over the series, we've had over 700 registrations. Over 700 people have booked to attend these events, which is absolutely fantastic. And I've had so many good emails from people saying how much they've enjoyed it. So thank you for your attendance, because this series has only been good as your attendance and participation. So the college has been working very hard, and we are continuing to work very hard to support businesses and our learners. And last week we launched our COVID-19 Recovery Hub, which since lockdown, despite only being live for a week, is the highest number, has had the highest number of website hits, which is incredible, really. Here's just a little bit of information regarding what the COVID-19 Recovery Hub is and what you can access. See the website address at the bottom of your page there. So if you want to find out about how we're supporting businesses through COVID-19 with access to funding, bespoke training, and finding future talent or retraining people, please do get in contact with us and we can have a conversation with you. But today, our theme is we are talking about traineeships. We love traineeships at Western. I was delighted to see some government investment going towards traineeships recently. But what we're going to talk about today really is we're going to talk about, well, what are traineeships? How do they work? And we're going to hear from our staff. So I'm going to hand over to Gary Durant in a moment. We're also going to hear from Ian Sweet, who's going to interview a former trainee and now an employee of Western College, Sophie. And I'm also going to interview Erica before we then actually have a look at that COVID-19 Recovery Hub before we close the session. So for now, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'll let Gary share his screen and I'll hand over to you, Gary.
Thank you, Dave. I'll just see if I can get the screen coming up and loaded. Have we got the right one? Wonderful. So hopefully everybody can see my screen. So what I'm going to try and do over the next sort of 5 to 10 minutes is take you through what a traineeship is, and the ways that you can get involved. And then obviously it goes into a bit of a story through Ian and through Erica about some of the journeys that some of our trainees have been on and how it works for some of our employers. So traineeships, obviously, as Dave said, have been in the news quite a lot over the last few weeks. And I think it's good for us to define what a traineeship is and the Western College version of a traineeship. So it is a skills development program for 16 to 24-year-olds who are motivated by getting into work, whether that's getting into employment or getting onto an apprenticeship. So ours and now the national picture is that they're built around 3 key principles. So that's work preparation training. So that's anything from gaining a CV, that could be understanding how to communicate within the workplace. That could be some digital skills outside of traditional digital skills. So things like being able to use online banking. So very much about developing that learner to be ready for A, for work, and B, for life. The work experience, which is the crucial factor of it. So that's the main bulk of the program, is the learners demonstrating what they've learned in the classroom out with the workplace with employers, functional skills of English, maths, and digital. They do last for between 6 weeks to 6 months. Now, there's been a lot of information about the flexibility being up to 12 months. That will only be where there's significant need, but the traditional traineeship between 6 weeks and 6 months, and our average amount of time on course is 12 weeks for a learner, because once they get past week 6, if they are ready to progress into a job or an apprenticeship, then they're able to do that. And they are free for employers to access. There's no requirement to pay trainees while they're on placement. We would always encourage, if an employer can afford to give them something, then that is brilliant, and it would go towards their travel or their living expenses. Differences between traineeship and apprenticeship. So there are similarities in the way that the training is delivered. They both combine work and training at the same time, and they're a step into a certain career. Traineeships is the first step. So that's the first step for people that either want to become an apprentice or they want to go into the world of work. So they will get different kind of soft skills training that they would receive on an apprenticeship. And traineeships are essentially a talent pool for apprenticeships. I say here, often our traineeship learners progress into full-time apprenticeships once an employer's got a chance to know them. So that happens in the majority of cases, and actually 90% of our trainees that do progress into apprenticeships progress with the employer that they are working with on work placement. And actually, we've been tracking the data now for over a year. We found 97% of our trainees complete their apprenticeship when they're with their employer, and then remain with their employer for the next step. So what we seem to have found is where an employer has invested that time in that trainee is very, very loyal to that organization because they gave them that start. What traineeships offers for employers. So the flexibility allows the opportunity to build a pool of high quality future recruits for the sector. So it might not just be for your business, but for the sector that you're proud of, that you sit within, helping to provide learners to go into apprenticeships and jobs in other parts of in other employers within the sector. It does allow you to test the water to see if an apprentice is something that you would like to support your business, and whether you would be able to provide that mentoring that apprentice needs. Quite a lot of our employers will often take a trainee initially where they're pretty sure they want an apprentice in the future, or they know that in a period of time, say 8 to 12 weeks budgetary, they'd be able to afford an apprentice. And this will give them the opportunity to almost do a longer live interview. As I say, it's try before you buy, but that's both for the learner and for the employer. So the employer gets to see what that person is like when they're in the world of work, and also from the learner's perspective, is it somewhere that they want to be for a long period of time, and is that the industry that they really want to go into and stay in? I thought I'd put up, and it's not the prettiest slide, I apologize. I was trying to put together some with all the logos, but this is just an example of some of the employers that we've been working with over the last academic year who have offered those work placements. So we've got some of our SMEs within this, and then some larger employers. Obviously, we also work with University Hospitals of Bristol, where we do quite a lot of cohorts with them, and we've done some work with GKM, but essentially every employer can support having a trainee and can look at them being a part of the business. So a little bit about how potentially employers can get involved. You can pledge the offer for a placement for traineeship learners. This is the opportunity to support somebody and give them the first step in their career. And it might not be that there is a trainee immediately available, because we advertise our traineeship vacancies through the National Apprenticeship website. So it's very much matching the right learner to the right employer. It's not a case that we would have somebody who wants to do childcare and they do a business administration work placement. It will be making sure that that's really the place that somebody wants to go and work. Again, you'd be pledging to take them on work placement and mentoring them within the role in the organisation. I often get questions, what sort of work should they be doing? Well, what would the apprentice do? What would another employee do in that same role? One of my learners came to us a while back and said, they were working in a retail shop and they were stacking shelves. And they said, well, that's not work experience, that's free labour. And I said, well, what happened at the beginning? Well, they showed me why I needed to fill that shelf. They talked to me about stock rotation. And I said, well, that's the realities of the world of work then. You're being told why you're doing a role, and then you're taking part in it. So you're being trained in order to do it. All an employer needs to do at the end of a traineeship is to give them an interview. So it doesn't have to be for a job or an apprenticeship. If you have one, then that is wonderful. But it's to allow them to understand what the realistic world is like when it comes to an interview, to be able to go through the whole process, to be able to get that feedback afterwards. And what we do with that feedback is then build that student a plan of where they're going to take things moving forward. For some of our placements, they are for real jobs. I mean, I give the example of University Hospitals of Bristol. When they come to their interview, it is for an apprenticeship. So they go through the whole assessment centre and they take the whole process from start to finish. So there's different kinds of traineeships as well, and they're not all one size fits all. So potentially a business might take an individual learner from a college program in Bristol, Somerset, or in Weston, and the placements do vary in length and time, and they're decided in a sit-down conversation between the employer, between the learner, and between one of the workplace assessors, the two who you'll see slightly later on, or potentially through an entire cohort. So some businesses like to house the entire traineeship at their business. That's the example with UHB and with GKN, where we will house the traineeship at the business. We run the teaching and learning from there. We run the English and maths from there, and their placement is then within the organisation. So it makes it more able to be tailored, and the curriculum to be tailored to suit the employer and to suit induction training. Often when we put together these kinds of programs, we'll sit down with the employer and go over the kind of knowledge that you want them to have, the things that you want them to be ready for when they go into the world of work. So I'll give you an example of a timetable, hopefully that will come up on the next slide. So this is an example employer program that we ran with a healthcare provider, and it breaks down sort of what kind of things that they did. So there was a few sessions where they were added in. So for example, on the Wednesday in week 2, you'll see the day in the life of a patient. So that was talking with the employer that as soon as that person puts on that NHS badge, if a patient comes up to them, the patient is expecting them to be the font of all knowledge, to know where they're going. And that it might be the best day, it might be the worst day of their life, and they need to know where they need to go. So the students go out around the hospital and work out exactly where everything is, and pair that with the customer service skills the week before, so that they're ready when the time comes for them to go on placement. Even if they are working in finance, they may be walking around the hospital and need to have that interaction. In this one, for example, we also built in the NHS induction. So that's a part of the program where the learners will go through, and if they do secure an apprenticeship, they're actually a few steps ahead of others, because they've already done that part of the induction. And there's other things that we run through that program as well. The employment rights and responsibilities, understanding social media, understanding how to act in the workplace, how to have a conversation with a colleague. And it might be that there are small bespoke things that need to be done, and those things will then add into the timetable and try and incorporate into the teaching and learning. I'll just show the example. I know I've spoken about the hospital a lot, but in fact, they advertise the traineeship on their website and direct all the applications straight through to Ian Sweet himself, who will then work with the recruitment team through the apprenticeship hub in order to place learners onto the program. I thought I'd include a little bit of employer feedback going along that theme. So this was a piece of information that came back to us from Julian Newbury, who's the head of education at the hospital. And the traineeship program, giving that that realistic example of the healthcare environment is something we're really, really proud to see. And it's something that we like, that runs through the programs that we run and runs through every traineeship, is allowing somebody to get that real life experience of what that industry looks like. And for some of the learners going on the program, it may be that actually they will excel when they're out in the workplace, but in an interview that they wouldn't hit the spot. I think one of our students summed it up, and if you look at the Western College Traineeship website, you'll see that on there's a quote from somebody called Lewis Broom. So Lewis was a trainee who took part in the GKM program. He would not make an application SIFT based on his CV and the qualifications that he held. He went through the program at GKN and secured an apprenticeship with them. And he's now heading into his final year and hoping to go on the degree apprenticeship the following year. And he said it allowed GKN to see him and not his CV. And that's a really good tagline for what traineeships is. It's the opportunity for that student to go out and see what the industry is like and demonstrate their skills, rather than having to potentially sit and talk about their skills when they're not quite sure exactly how they would go through and do that in an interview. So that's the sort of whistle stop tour through a traineeship. If anyone's got any questions, please put them into the chat box. And back to you, Dave.
Thank you, Gary. I think what you've said there, Lewis's quote saying it allowed GKN to see me and not just my CV. I think that's quite powerful. And there's talent everywhere, isn't there? We just got to uncover it. And thank you, Gary. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to ask Ian Sweet, who leads on the mobilizations of our traineeship courses and programs. And Ian's just going to introduce himself, and then he's going to have a conversation with Sophie, former trainee. And please use the chat box, guys. If you want to ask a question to Sophie, put them in the chat box, and I'll put those to Sophie after Ian's asked her a few questions. Over to you, Ian.
Thank you, Dave. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ian, and I'm the work placement coordinator for the traineeship team. In 6 years almost in the role, so seeing traineeships go from strength to strength. I'm very proud of where we sit at the moment. I'm very proud of people like Sophie as well, who've come through the traineeship program, now progressed on to where they are. So I'd like to introduce Sophie Adams to you. Sophie, I think it's probably about 3 or 4 years ago you were on the program now.
Yeah, roughly about 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, and you're going to tell us about your experience and how you found your traineeship journey. So could you tell us, Sophie, what you were doing before you actually joined the traineeship program?
Yeah, so I left school in about 2016. Wasn't sure what I wanted to do. Yeah, just wasn't completely sure of anything really. So I just knew that I wanted to kind of earn money, and I just wanted to work. So I worked in a variety of jobs. So I did waitressing, worked in a cafe, did some customer service roles. I worked in a care home, and it wasn't until I worked in a care home that I realised I kind of liked supporting and I liked helping people. So I thought I'll go back to college, and I then studied travel and tourism, which it just wasn't for me. And then I came across traineeships on the website and through some other people that had also been on one. And then I had an IAG, and then I started traineeships.
So the kind of jobs you were doing, they were more like jobs to earn money rather than maybe a career?
Yeah, nothing long term, just to pass the time, just to get money, really.
So how would you say, you said travel and tourism, how would you say that a traineeship differs from other courses within the college?
So you learn a variety of skills that you necessarily wouldn't learn on a full-time course, and it's not a full-time course, so you're not committed to anything either, which I preferred doing that than being on a full-time course. And yeah, you just learn loads of skills like team working, just learn like the mannerism, professionalism, like the tone of your voice and things like that, and confidence, and yeah, just things like that.
What do you think was the most important skill that you learned on your traineeship?
Probably confidence, because I didn't have much confidence. Yeah, and I just felt kind of lost, like I didn't really have any confidence at all.
Okay, so after you've done your employability stuff, we put you out on work placement. So
Yeah.
where did you do your work placement?
So I did my work placement with the pre-employment team. This was at Weston College. I did this for about a week, and I did a variety of business admin roles, so like answering the phone and spreadsheets and stuff. And then I supported in the classroom, and then that's when I realised I really enjoyed being in the classroom and supporting learners.
How do you think that the skills that you learned helped you to gain an apprenticeship?
So it just generally helped me with everything. So like my confidence, just everything really. I probably wouldn't be sat here today if I didn't do traineeships or my placement. And it just kind of, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So doing a placement helped me realise that, okay, business admin is something that I could potentially do and that I wanted to do. And yeah, without doing it, I wouldn't be sat here.
So sat here 4 years on from your traineeship, we can look back at your journey. So can you tell us about your job role now and maybe the skills and qualifications that you've kind of achieved over this period?
Yeah, so now I work for a contract. So my job title is an ESF NEET progression support worker. So I support in classrooms, and most importantly, I support on a one-to-one basis, teaching them what I've kind of learned on traineeships as well, like employment skills and stuff. And I've just been doing loads of courses, kind of getting loads of qualifications. So I've done my mental health first aid training. I've done a level 2 support and teaching, a level 2 business techniques course, and I've done an education and training course as well.
And what does the future look like?
Really bright, I think. So I just want to progress further on from this once I've had experience in it and stuff. And yeah, I might go into teaching and go on to do my level 5.
And finally, so have you got any advice for anybody who wants to do a traineeship, thinking about doing one?
Just to go for it and not think too much into it. Like I said, I wouldn't be where I am today or be able to do some of the stuff that I do in my current job role if I didn't originally do traineeships and do my placement and do my apprenticeship. And I just learnt so many skills that I realised I thought I didn't need, and skills that I didn't even realise that I had. And I just learned all of that. And yeah, traineeships just provided me with an effective route into like a long-term career. So yeah, I would just go for it. And
it's great, so because we remember you from like day one in the classroom, coming in, not really knowing what the future looked like. So we're all really proud of what you've achieved, and we look forward to following your progress in the future. So yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Sophie. Dave, back to you.
Thank you, Ian. Sophie, we've had a question. I'm not going to let you disappear quite yet. We've had a question come in from the chat box, and I'm going to let Lauren come in on the call actually and just ask you that question. And after that, we've got another question for you, Ian,
okay.
from Tracy. So I'll let you look at the chat box. But Lauren, do you want to come in and ask Sophie?
Yeah, sure. So, hey, Sophie, thanks very much for that. That was really informative. But from your opinion here, how do you think we could let more people know about traineeships? Like, what do you think that we could do?
Maybe I could go out and do talks and stuff about just my journey and how it's helped me, and yeah, just my journey and what I've done and what I'm doing now. That might help.
Brilliant idea. Yeah. And what do you think, like social media wise, etc.? Do you think that there's a place there to get more promotion across like different social media channels?
Yeah, definitely. Maybe like Instagram and stuff as well, because that's quite a popular social media now. So I know Facebook with Weston College is really good, and I do follow them, but I don't think I follow them on Instagram. So maybe using that as a platform would be really good as well and useful.
Yeah, fabulous. Do you reckon we could get a TikTok going or something, or is that hard to? Yeah.
I'll do a TikTok.
Yeah. Great, thank you.
We got a traineeship TikTok from Sophie on the way. Love it. No, good. Tracy Leahy's asked a question. Tracy, do you want to come in?
I was obviously, from everywhere, I'm Tracy from the apprenticeship team. So we've had a positive impact from employers for the new bonus incentive. So Ian, if you had that same reaction from any traineeship employers around the incentive money that's on offer now?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, a lot of our employers are kind of repeat business. They come back to us time and time again without wanting actually £1,000, which is great. So the fact that I can actually say, oh, and by the way, there's £1,000 incentive if you take a learner as well, because they do put in a lot of time, effort with training and resourcing and everything else.
Yeah.
And we do work with a lot of smaller companies like local nurseries and hair salons and beauty, but to actually be able to benefit them £1,000, which will help, maybe take some of their staff off the job that they can help give training and stuff with. It can't be a negative. It certainly can't be a negative because we've done it without giving them £1,000 in the past, and they've been really supportive and helpful. So the fact that we can kind of, offer that as well is fantastic. And then there's obviously the natural progression onto an apprenticeship, so they can then, dive into that pot as well. So from the employer point of view, I see it as very much a very positive journey going forward for them. So
Okay, thank you.
Lovely, thank you. Thanks, Tracy. Good comments coming through on the chat box here, guys. A comment from Ray Stewart. Well done, Sophie. You're a credit to yourself and the college, and that just backs up what Ian's already said. So we're very proud of you, and you do a brilliant job at the college, and you're a great example. And I can't wait to see that TikTok. Yeah. Okay.
Can I just say, Dave, with what we had with the NHS, graphing the NHS every Thursday evening, we had a lot of people go through, and they've been working tirelessly throughout, who came onto a traineeship and sat in front of me saying, I want to be a nurse at the hospital, I want to be a nursing assistant. And to see them actually doing that, it's been absolutely fantastic. So there are some great journeys out there, and it's great to be part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's quite a powerful story, actually, when you see where our trainees have ended up and what they're doing right now. Now more than ever, it's quite powerful. Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Sophie. And just in terms of how the college works with employers, I often refer to this triangle approach, really, in that it takes a brilliant employer, it takes our amazing learners, but there's also that other part of the triangle, which is the representative of the college that effectively brings the employer and learners together. And I'm now going to introduce Erica Upton, who's also works alongside Ian in our traineeship team. And I'd just be really good to find out your perspective, Erica. So do you want to just introduce yourself and talk a bit about your job role, first of all?
Okay. Hello, everybody. So I'm Erica. I'm the workplace assessor for the traineeship team. I do the same job as Ian, basically. I'm responsible for supporting learners into safe, quality and meaningful work placements. So I'm, myself and Ian, we go out and we try to find those placements that the learners want to do, the sectors they want to go into. I will help the learners with their interview prep before they go out to meet the employers. They may need to have a DBS check done or a CSCS test done, so I can support them with that. I get to know the learners really well before I try to find them an employer, so that's really important that we get the best fit. And I'm also a constant point of contact for the employer and for the learner. So if things aren't going well, it's not the right placement for them, they know, either the employer or the learner knows they can contact myself or Ian, and we can try and change the placement or try and sort out what the problem is. I also arrange with the employer and the learner the hours they're going to work, days, how they're going to get there, make sure they're safe, that there's buses home, buses there, whatever. Yeah, and I then help the learner move on into applying for apprenticeships or a job. So supporting them with interview preparation and doing their applications.
So you are their go-to person, really, and I mean, often we think it's the matching process is really important, but you said that you also support the employer and learner throughout the whole journey, really.
Yes, yeah, just try to be that point of contact. So, any problems, they can phone me, they can email me, and quite often myself or Ian, we can't really plan our days because we may get a call and we have to go down to see an employer and or speak to a learner. and try and sort out, a problem. Not
Great.
problems, but
And I just want to talk about, the benefits for employers and learners. So we just start with employers first, and benefits, and maybe also some advice that you might want to share, Erica, if that's what you want to do. Because we might have some people on the call today that might want to consider doing this. So if we're talking to employers now, what do you think are the benefits of offering traineeships? And also, if you were to impart any advice, what would that be?
So I think for employers, if they are looking for an apprentice or a new member of staff, it can open up a talent pool for them. So they're given that opportunity to try before they buy. So obviously we try to have a good fit before the learner goes in, but it's also, it's almost a trial period. It gives the employer a chance to see how that learner's really works, and also the learner a chance to see how that company works and whether they're going to fit in, whether it's actually what they were expecting. It boosts their confidence, definitely. Yeah.
Great stuff. And what about if there's advice or to a learner? You talked a bit about benefits, but say if there's someone on the call that we've all got friends, families, sons and daughters, etc., and they think of what a traineeship is an option. What advice would you give to that person?
As far as work experience, I think it's being able to build your CV. It's another thing you can add to your CV. If you're going into an interview, you can perhaps have some real life scenarios of things that have happened while you've been on work experience. It's something to talk about in an interview. It definitely boosts that learner's confidence as well, and it's learning work ethic. It's learning what's expected of you in the workplace. The fact that you have to come back from your breaks on time, you have to arrive on time, being professional, not using your mobile phone. It's all those things. If a learner hasn't worked before, they don't necessarily know those things, what's appropriate in the workplace.
So there's almost an element of coaching and mentoring that you do as well.
Yeah, as well as realizing it's the right sector they want to work in. They might have wanted to work in childcare for years, or that's what they thought. They loved working children, until they actually get into a nursery with 30 sort of crying children who want their attention. That might be completely different to what they were expecting.
So having the opportunity to try that line of work before committing to it's quite important, isn't it?
Yeah, before committing to the apprenticeship.
Yeah. Great, thank you, Erica. Thanks for joining us. And I think I would imagine that when people come to your door, sometimes they might feel a little bit lost or a bit anxious. And I know the way that you and Ian work with people is amazing, actually. So thank you for what you do, because the results are amazing. People like Sophie. So it's really good. I really appreciate you both joining us. And also before we move on to the look at the COVID Recovery Hub. Guys, keep the questions coming in the chat box because we might have time to revisit that later. Thank you. Thanks to Ian, Erica, and Sophie for that. Really good.
Okay.
So the other thing I wanted to cover in today's event was I think there are a lot of options out there for employers who are maybe considering what the future of their business actually looks like. And at this point, I'm just going to ask Jane just to come in and just tell me that you can see the screen, Jane.
See the screen, yep.
Yeah, that's always a good start, isn't it? So what Jane and myself and Lauren and many other colleagues at Western College have done is keeping it simple is really important. Government incentives have been announced, which is great, but how does all that work? And what support actually can Western College provide to an employer in the next 6-12 months or even beyond? So like I said, last week we launched our COVID-19 Recovery Hub, which is on our website, and you can see that. I'll give you the link to it as well. And the team here are here to help. And for us, we looked at how traineeships can be an opportunity for employers last week in the Wednesday working lunch. we focused on apprenticeships. And Tracy, just going to quickly bring you in. Have you seen some interest in terms of people looking to re-engage with apprenticeships now? Not sure if you're on mute, Tracy. Well, I know from talking to Tracy, who leads our apprenticeship sales and recruitment, that we have seen a significant interest in conversations, especially with some of the funding that's available for employers. And we can have, in theory, if an employer takes on a trainee who then progresses to an apprenticeship, there's up to £3,000 of financial incentives there. In addition, we talked recently at one of these events around industry placements and how our current students studying at college can be an extra pair of hands and actually go out and spend time on a placement with an employer alongside their course. So that was another theme. But I'm just going to ask Jane to talk a bit about the options for employers looking to train or reskill or upskill their staff. Over to you, Jane, as I click through.
Thank you, Dave. Just wait for the page to load. Thank you. So we've obviously run a number of Wednesday working lunches around kind of upskilling and reskilling, and we recently ran one around distance learning. We have a number of courses available, both digital and online, but also a blended approach where you can do some more kind of face-to-face training and development. At the moment, obviously that's through Zoom, to help with upskilling and retraining of the workforce. Since lockdown, we've actually seen nearly 700 enrolments on a number of the courses that you can see here. So things like team leading, business improvement techniques, digital skills, customer service, and also a lot around mental health and well-being. I think what we found is that businesses have used lockdown and maybe furlough to help their staff to develop during that time. So yeah, just to let you know really that there's a range of courses available to employers that really do help with that upskilling of their existing workforce. And I think certainly the mental health courses and understanding mental health problems is a key one that we're starting to see quite a few businesses approach us about as they realise the impact of COVID and kind of the coming back into the workforce. We also have, as you can see there, a mental health first aid course, which is the Mental Health First Aid England, which is a national accredited qualification, which we've got lucky enough to have a delivery assessor here in the college that's able to deliver that for us. And that is a first aid course, but specifically around mental health. It's a 2-day course or an online course, depending on what suits the business's needs. And that lasts for 3 years. So it's like a first aid qualification. And also we've got mental health first aid directory of services. So anyone that accesses our services through training have access to a whole range of different support in place, such as Big White Wall that you can see there that Dave's highlighting. We've got a body and mind and welfare service. We have lots of initiatives that run across the college, both for staff and learners, to support them through their time with us in terms of learning and development. Big White Wall is a really interesting portal which we've taken the decision to purchase to support and enhance what we already offer. That's an online platform which people can access 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. There's lots of self-help tools and guides. There's also learning and development on there, but also there's a wall where people can post anonymously how they're feeling and interact with lots of people, not just from within the college, but anyone that's signed up to Big White Wall. Sitting behind that, and I think this is what we feel is a critical part of that service, is a team of trained counsellors. So if any of your staff who are learning with us feel the need to have some extra support, they can access that through Big White Wall when they're learning with Weston College. So it's a very quick canter through. As you can see on that screen there, there's links through to actually a list of the training and development qualifications that we offer. But if you have any questions, please get in contact with us and we can guide you through the different options and the progression routes that are available to employees.
Thank you, Jane. And I would have thought that there's a lot of employers at the moment that are probably considering what the future of their business will actually look like. Is it going to be the same structure? There's obviously things in the news regarding businesses looking at potential redundancy support or making redundancies, or certainly the whole idea of recovering, retraining, and rebuilding their business.
And this is the as you can see here from this section of the new COVID recovery pages, there's a whole service that we've put in place, and we've reorganized our own organization to be able to guide employers through that recovery, retrain and rebuild process. Some of it will be supporting employers and employees through maybe upskilling and retraining as they take on extra responsibilities. Some of it will be around kind of understanding that organisational change and the impact that's going to have on a workforce, either through needing to gain new skills, or unfortunately it might be if employers are looking to make employees redundant. Again, we have a whole redundancy task force here at the college where we can pick that up and support you as an employer, but also your employees if they are becoming redundant. Obviously, there's also services that we offer to help connect you as well to other support services. So we are one of a whole range of partners that are delivering enhanced support at this time. So again, we can guide you through that and make sure you're in contact with other services and delivery partners in the area. But really just to say here that it's an enhanced and bespoke support package that we're offering. So we will work with you to understand your own individual needs as an organisation, and then guide you through and give you the best opportunities to support your employees.
Thank you, Jane. Plenty of support available, but I think it all starts here. So that's really good to hear. And finally, another theme, everything we do at Weston is in response to industry. And we've seen a huge movement towards using digital skills. And you are watching a live example of that because I didn't even know Zoom existed in January. So one of the things that we've been looking at is, as a college, how can we support people in employment, those looking to get into employment, and also employers to look at the digital skills of their employees. And there's a few different ways that we do that. One way is in September, we'll be offering the new digital T-level qualification, which is a 2-year course for our learners 16 to 19 years old. And they will be going out on industry placements to work alongside industry and provide that extra pair of hands. We're also a Microsoft Showcase college as well, so we can provide support and training regarding Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other packages as well. And in addition, we're seeing a real upsurge in interest from employers looking to invest in apprenticeships around IT support, around infrastructure. Data analytics is really important. I'm sure all of you know that when you visit a website, you're asked to accept all cookies, but obviously that provides data, and how we as organizations harness and use customer data is really, really important and can be quite powerful for business growth and really understanding your customers. Project management is key, especially when leading change, which I'm sure many of us are going to be doing over the next 12 months and beyond. And in addition, we've got a digital and technology solutions degree apprenticeship, which is 95% funded for employers. It's a 4-year program that we deliver in partnership with UE Bristol. And we've seen incredible transition from our full-time learners going out on placements, going straight into a digital degree course, 4 years worth of training, 95% funded by the government for you, which gives incredible opportunities. So I just thought we'd recap on that really regarding the COVID Hub. But like I said, if you do want to visit that website, and have a look and see what we're doing, then please do. It's a resource there for you. And get in touch with us at that number, or employers@western.ac.uk. So finally, we just before I say a few thank yous, really, we have come to the end of our session, towards the end anyway. Hopefully you can see my screen. Jane, quick check if you can see that.
Yes, sorry, I was on mute. Yeah.
All right, catching you out, sorry. Thank you. So this is just a bit of a summary about the COVID Recovery Hub, learning an extra pair of hands, and also utilising apprenticeships, which can also be used for people that already work for your business as well. So just bear that in mind. If you've got someone that you maybe going to have to look to take on some leadership or management responsibilities, that could be an option. Also marketing and digital and data analytics. And just as I close, I thought I'd show you a quick film, actually, if you would give me a few more minutes of your time, because this is the last of our series. We've had over 700 people have joined us, which is absolutely incredible. And we set this up because we wanted to educate and collaborate and bring people together at a time where, quite a frightening time, if I'm being honest. And I think for me, as I reflect on where we are as an organization, as we look to the future, I think that understanding why you do what you do, the why, is absolutely just important as what you do and how you do it. And for me, this is just a quick film just to give you a summary regarding Western College and what we do, which is creating brighter futures.
I cannot believe that me, a 49-year-old woman, is going to go to university. I started with just the thought that, can I get onto Access? Can I turn on a computer? Can I do this? And I have done it.
So some of my biggest achievements are getting a trial for England under-20s, as well as playing for the England under-18s against Scotland, and the college has helped massively to push these achievements.
Western College, from the day one, the teachers have been brilliant. They've known everything they needed to know. They've helped me, done way more than what I'd expected them. You know, people were replying to emails at weekends, late in the evenings, just to help me get what I needed to know. And Western College has been everything I could have wanted it to be. It's the best place I could have gone.
One of the reasons we wanted to work with Western College was their approach to partnership. We work together to create our secure employees of the future.
Thank you. And just as I sign off this session today, just a personal thank you from me to you, actually, for everyone who's joined this series, to our event partners, North Somerset Enterprise Agency and Western Chamber of Commerce, and all of our college staff, our external guest speakers who have joined us as well, and also our amazing learners, people like Sophie, who have joined us as well. It's been an incredible series. Who knows, we might see you back on a Wednesday for lunch in the autumn. But from me to everyone who has joined us and been part of this, a huge thank you. Let's look to the future together, and we look forward to working with you. So from me to all of you, it's really good. So thanks very much, and bye for now.